today on CityCast Madison. Biking is a massive part of Madison's DNA, and for good reason. Not only are we one of the most bike-friendly cities in the US, it's gorgeous here. We have miles of show-stopping bike trails along our lakes, and right now it's the perfect, lush time to bust out your bike and adventure. Grant Foster of Madison Bikes pulled together a list of some of his favorite Madison bike trips. Don't have a bike? We've got tips on rentals, basic maintenance, and what to pack. It's Tuesday, July 25th. I'm Bianca Martin, and here's what Madison's talking about. Grant, hello.
Hello, Bianca.
There are so many biking opportunities in Madison, and I don't actually know them that well. I know a couple, but I definitely really want to get into it. I know I'm not alone. So you pulled together some good bike trips for us, and we're going to do some short ones, longer ones. Let's start out with some of the closer, more approachable trips for beginners. Where are some good places folks can start in town?
Yeah, well, I'm going to start actually with downtown. So if you were leaving Lake Street at State Street, you can ride up State Street, ride all the way up, ride around the Capitol, and then come back down the backside, which of course is more fun coming downhill. You got to stop at the stoplights, and, it's not the most natural scenery, but it's State Street. It's cool. People watching. You can stop wherever you want.
Can I say that's my first memory in is riding my bike on State Street with my sister and her cute boyfriend and in a sundress and literally thinking, oh my God, I can't believe I'm here. I've been waiting most of my life to move to Madison. And I remember just it feeling so magical.
That's the magic feeling. That's it. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, the State Street, because there aren't outside of a few buses and that sort of thing, it's for bikers.
Yeah, you get to feel like you're okay riding in the middle of the street and don't feel pressured like somebody's needing to pass you. And I mean, you might get passed by somebody on a skateboard or something, but it's fun. You could do that little loop, and then you can actually head the other direction, just basically get over by the Memorial Union. And there's the Lakeshore Path that starts there, and it's so quick. And you can stop when you're out there and go walk out on Picnic Point or anywhere else along the way. So those are nice sort of downtown getaways, especially for students or people that don't have cars that are already living down there.
For the Lakeshore Path during the summer when the bugs come out, I feel should we say people should wear glasses?
I think it's not a bad idea to always wear glasses of some sort. Eye protection is good, whether you're on a motorcycle or a human-powered bicycle. It's a good idea. And yeah, bugs can get a little bit thick out there. So it's, keep your mouth shut.
Yeah, that's hard for me. Okay, carry on.
So another great one is a lake loop. It's not the lake loop, but it's the Wingra Lake Loop. So that's one where you can really go through the Arboretum, which, again, it allows some cars there, but it's pretty chill. It definitely feels like a place where it's mostly people running and biking, and it's just beautiful. So biking through the Arboretum, come around. There's a really good way to do it without really having to be on much roads. And then you kind of drop back in behind Edgewood College and come out by Violets Park and the zoo. It's just a real nice little 30-minute loop. So that's another great one sort of close to downtown and one that a lot of folks can get to.
Watch out for turkeys.
Turkey alert. And then one other sort of half-hour sized one leaves Lake Farm Park, so kind of southeast part of town, also pretty easy to get to. And this is one of the newer paths. It's called the Lower Yahara River Trail, and it's actually a boardwalk. The entire thing is just a huge boardwalk, basically across the lake. And you can ride from Lake Farm Park all the way across there, and you show up in McFarland. There's a nice park there called McDaniel Park. And then right next door, there's the Green Lantern. So you can get fries and beer and whatever you want, split up that arduous 30-minute exercise routine and then take another 15 minutes to get back to your car.
Nice little stop at the Green Lantern. That sounds nice.
Yeah. So then, if that's not enough for you, if you want to be out on your bike for maybe an hour, I think we'd be amiss if we didn't mention the Lake Loop, the Monona Lake Loop. So this is just one of the iconic rides in Madison.
Of course.
I mean, it's great. Some of the sections honestly aren't that amazing. You're just kind of like biking through Monona and you're like, wait, this is the Lake Loop. But You feel really accomplished when you're done. You can talk, like, I rode around the lake today. It's like you can't really cheat it unless you rent a boat or something. So it's like, you went at least that long if you went around the lake. So it just feels good. And there's tons of places to stop along the way. Just tons and tons of parks in Madison, Olbrich Park, the Beer Garden, a bunch of beach parks in Monona, Oland, Herville, BB Clark. So you have a lot of places to stop.
So many great views.
Yeah, it really is a lake loop, except for some of those sections. It feels like you're riding around the lake and you get to look at it and look at the birds and all that.
Yeah.
One quick note on that, though, right now, major reconstruction on Atwood Avenue, right by Olbrich Park. So it's a little, there's a way through and they've got it marked, but it's not quite as beautiful and iconic as it will be when that is done.
Yeah, that's definitely one that I want to try, and I see everyone. How long does it take ish?
An hour.
An hour?
It's 12 miles. I mean, maybe it takes an hour and 5 minutes. You could, some people can probably do it in 35 minutes if they're really pushing it.
Unless you're one of those competitive people who like has the boat set up so you can like be your friends.
There you go. There you go.
I love that idea. Silliness.
And then I think if once you're like really, you've done that a bunch of times, you're kind of getting bored with it, and you want something a little bit longer, if you've got an hour and a half, which honestly that's a nice, that's not too long. Yeah. You can do what's called the Cap City Loop. So this would be starting out at Lake Farm Park again, the same place where you take that lower Yahara River Trail. And you go west and sort of down through kind of South Madison, Fitchburg, and just a really bunch of beautiful prairies, lots of wildflowers, just really, really, you feel like you're out in the country for most of it, honestly. And you can take that all the way, you can take it to Seminole Highway, and there's mostly a bike lane on there that gets you back down to the Arboretum, and then come through the Arb again and back. So that whole big loop is about 16 miles and, takes you about an hour and a half. And it's just gorgeous. So that's a real neat one to get to.
I love it. And we should say, like, if you don't have a bicycle, B-cycle is an option for these town gallivants, right?
Yeah, especially now with the e-bikes, I think, for people that are new to biking, sometimes it can feel like more work than it should, because honestly, biking doesn't really need to be more effortful than walking. That's kind of the pace that I like to bike. I'm kind of a fast walker. I like to bike at that same sort of level. I don't really like to be running on my bike. Some people love it. Some people are joggers and runners. They like to kind of have their heart rate up higher the whole time. That's not me. So the cool thing about biking is you can pick your pace. You can pick your style. But if you're new to biking, it's just going to be, muscles that haven't really been used that way. Your butt might feel a little bit sore. So it can feel harder, if you just take your bike out for the first time after a while, but it gets way easier really fast.
Are those B-cycles nice? I haven't used one before.
Yeah, they're really easy for people of different heights to get on. They really help if you're going up a hill. That could feel like a lot of work if you haven't been biking a lot, but if you've got an e-bike, it just kind of takes care of that for you. So it doesn't. You're not like, yeah. Well, it's a help, I would say. Yeah, no shame at all.
I'm just like kind of picturing some of these as you're talking us through and traveling along, like I'm on a little bit of a video game or something like that. Did we mention the Velo Underground? Because that sounds like that's really interesting to me.
Well, yeah, that is such a cool place, right? So the Velo Underground is where a bunch of really nice bike trails all come together. There's like a little roundabout there, and it's underneath one of the bike trails, the Badger State Trail. So this is kind of southwest part of the city. I think it's actually technically in Fitchburg. It's right at the jurisdiction between Madison and Fitchburg. And from that point, you can do a lot of rides and start getting out of the city. So if you're there, for example,
do you ever meet at the Velo?
All the time.
Meet at the Velo Underground. Wear your
4
banana.
No, I mean, I used to do a lot of these kind of go for a quick camp trip overnight, sort of head out of work at 4 p.m., get back the next day by 10 a.m. And it absolutely meet up with folks out there and, wherever you're coming from, you meet there and then everybody rides out together out of town. So it's a great meetup spot, actually. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, it's really good, especially if you do it on a Wednesday. All of a sudden, it's like a free little weekend night in the middle of your week and just makes working much easier.
Okay, y'all, did you hear that? That's a good little trick. Do it on a Wednesday. Make the week easier. I love it. Well, I want to dig into this idea of like taking a camping trip, like just a day camping trip. And you pulled together some good recommendations there. Can you tell us about those?
Yeah, it's really nice living in Madison, not just for the bike facilities in town, but we do have these awesome rail trails that let you get out of town, again, in a really sort of comfortable and safe way, being on this separated path. And then there's great spots to camp out in a few different directions. Probably one of the most well-known ones would be Blue Mounds State Park. So there's actually a bike camping specific area at Blue Mounds right off the trail. So you end up taking the Military Ridge Trail out from the Velo Underground. You just start biking. It takes you right through and along Verona. You can even stop there if you want a little bite or a beer. You go west of Verona. There's another nice stop at the Riley Tavern. And then you're in Mount Horeb and you're almost there, and lots of great options if you want to just grab dinner and not worry about packing it or anything. You could eat there. And then, just continue out to Blue Mounds State Park. And there's another actually great option really close by, which is a county park. And that's called Brigham County Park. And so that's also right before Mount Horeb.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so those are fun. Another one, if you want not necessarily camping, but just want to get out of town, that from the Velo Underground, you can go south instead on what's called the Badger State Trail, and take that to Paoli, for example. That's a 45-minute ride, so you're looking at an hour and a half, out and back. That's a really nice one to do on a weekday evening. Just ride out there.
I've been hearing so much about it, Paoli. And then all the stuff going on over there. So that sounds really cute.
Yeah, it's a cute little town, and they've got, there's a microbrew out there on the river. I think there's like a creamery, et cetera, that's opened up there.
7 Acre
lots
Dairy.
of things to check out. That's it. You got it. Yeah. So that's a great one. Or you can just keep going. You can go all the way down to Illinois actually on that trail. It gets you all the way to the border. However long you want to pedal, there's trail to take you there. And then I think a few other ones to maybe mention, if you instead were at Lake Farm Park that we talked about a few times, you can use that to you can bike there from town, from anywhere, wherever you live in Madison. You can just bike to Lake Farm Park, and they actually have camping there. So if you really want to try it for the first time and you're nervous, get your gear loaded up, and it's probably a 5 or 6 mile bike ride, and you're there.
Okay, so that one's one of the closer ones, and it sounds like, if you're a beginner, Lake Farm Park is a good place to go, like, camp. That's probably where I'm going to start.
Yeah, I think it's great, and it's because it's well connected. You can get on the Cap City path. There's a bunch of trails and paths that take you there, kind of from wherever you live in Madison. So it's a nice one. It's a nice one to go with. It's a nice one to go with kids, if you want to try that, because they can probably pedal pretty easily for 4 or 5 miles sort of thing. Or you can go from there and maybe end up driving there, and you can go down to Lake Kegonsa State Park. So that's under an hour, so under 10 miles, and another nice short one to try out. It's got a nice lake. And then if you want something a little bit bigger, Sandhill Station, which is just south of Lake Mills, is another really nice spot. It's got a bunch of old oak trees in the campground, just nice and chill, nice little lake. And that's about a 2.5 hour ride or 30 miles.
I am picturing kind of like Zelda, or like just like moving around, picturing I just love cartography and thinking of maps and all of these trails. And there are some good maps. We'll link to those for sure.
One quick thing on that, honestly, Google Maps, if you put on the bike layer, is really, really good. So, there's some other like map resources for bike, etc. But if you're a newbie and you just put in your address, put in where you want to go, it'll generally route you on the trails and paths preferentially. It gives you a good estimate of how long it'll take. And you can, if you want to pull it up on your smartphone and just, it'll take you there.
It'll take you there. Oh, and also, because sometimes you think about internet connectivity, you can save them, right? Like once you get the map, you can save it. So just in case, that's probably a good idea too.
Good call.
And
bring a phone, especially if you're by yourself. Yeah, just call a friend kind of thing. It's a good idea.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about pro tips because you've been biking your whole life and such a big part of the Madison biking community. What are some good like planning ahead things, especially for the longer trails or the longer trips and even camping?
First and foremost, make sure your bike's working all right before you head out. So whether it's a short one or a long one, a nice thing to remember is called ABC Quick Check. So ABC stands for air, brakes, and chain. So check your tires. If they're flat, pump them up. If you haven't ridden it for a while, there's lots of help online to tell you how much to pump them up, but just check them. Brakes, make sure your brakes are working. Honestly, it's way more important than anything else. Just make sure you can stop your bike. Hopefully that works just fine. And then chain, you make sure you can go. Make sure your chain's on there, that it's shifting okay. If you got some lube, put it on there, make sure it's not squeaking. And then the last thing is really the quick check part of it is quick. One of the funny things that happens is the quick release levers on a lot of bikes, like the front wheel, there's a quick release lever. Sometimes that just doesn't get put in there good and tight. So make sure it is. It probably
Release
is,
lever.
but just make sure. Yeah, quick release lever.
Okay.
And then just check and make sure there's nothing else like loose, rattly, broken. That's about it. But it's a good thing to just check every time before you roll out.
Definitely.
And then in terms of doing those longer trips and the camping, number one, people can just tie themselves in knots, like looking at online stuff, trying to figure out their gear lists, finding all the things they don't have or that they need to have better. And, that just probably is going to be the way it is for a lot of people.
They did the bike path all in their mind.
Yeah,
they did
exactly.
all of the loops in their mind, and then they didn't make it out.
But then they didn't do it. Yeah, so just do it. I mean, is the number one. You're not gonna. I mean, unless it's like freezing out or you're not gonna hurt yourself probably. So do it. You'll probably learn something. You'll say, oh, next time I'm going to do it differently this way. But really, all you need is a sleeping bag and a sleeping pad, number one. You don't even need a tent if you go to the to that Blue Mounds bike camping. They actually have I think the Boy Scouts built it back in the day, little shelter with some, bunk bed platforms. So if it's once we get into summertime and you're dealing with bugs, you probably want some bug netting, which probably means a tent. So then it's a tent and a sleeping bag and a sleeping pad. So that's really all you need. If you've got a bike rack and some panniers, throw it in there. Or a basket. Panniers, the French bags. This is I think that's from they're like bread bags. That's probably the name. Yeah,
sure.
But yeah, bike luggage. And if you don't have anything like that, you can still do it. I actually just last week went out to a book club out in the country and rode out there. Brought a friend who doesn't bike very much. And he put it in a backpack, put the backpack on, and rode out there, and it worked just fine. So you don't need any fancy luggage or even panniers.
I love that. You mentioned doing the check for your bike before you leave. Do you bring a kit or anything for repair, or when you go for longer rides?
I do. I mean, I always just carry a little multi-tool, spare tube, etc. on all my bikes. Obviously, you need to know how to change a flat tire if you're gonna have much success. Although it's not a bad idea to bring a spare tube, even if you don't know how, because a lot of people do know how. And if you actually get stuck somewhere, other people riding bikes are super friendly. Likely, someone's gonna stop and say, "Are you all right?" "Oh yeah, I can help you with that." So figure out what tube size you need. Just bring it along, and then if you're into it, figure out how to change it. There's good YouTube videos, or go into a local shop and they'll help you out. So I think it's a good idea to bring along, but also not totally necessary, because as long as you have that cell phone, and if you're okay with it, you can always just call a cab. Somebody will come pick you up, and you don't even have to worry about fixing whatever issue comes up.
Totally. And I love that you brought up the community, people that you might not even know, but there is a big bike community here, and tons of resources. You're one of the folks. What sort of bike resources should people know about, and what's the culture like?
There's just so much interest in biking in Madison that there's all kinds of subgroups. So if you're into mountain biking or road biking or commuting, there's a bunch of sort of social rides that are scheduled, sometimes once a week, sometimes once a month. And a great place to check all of that out is Madison Bikes. So that's a nonprofit, local community resource that has been around for a number of years. It's got a great Facebook group. If you have questions, etc., and you're on Facebook, you can go check there. But you can also subscribe to their weekly email updates, and they've got a calendar where they post a lot of these social rides, etc. So I mean, any questions you have, that's sort of a great place to start, I think.
I love it. When I first got to Madison, I immediately saw, I'm like, biking is like the cool kids thing. It's like the bee's knees for sure. There's like the Full Moon Bike Club with like 150 people biking at night, checking it out. So we really embrace biking here, and I hope to kind of get in the mix, and I hope you listening might as well. So Grant, thank you so much. This is awesome. You gave us so many goodies.
Yeah, I love it. Thanks for having me on. And I hope everybody gets out there on their bikes, and I hope you get a tailwind.
Woo! Get that tailwind. That's Grant Foster, Madison cyclist and board member of Madison Bikes. Check out our show notes for a list of some of the trails that he mentioned. And here's what else Madison's talking about. Public space. Updates to the Monona lakefront design are coming. The city held a competition to design a new Monona Terrace waterfront and shoreline. The biking community raised concerns about pedestrian and bicycle safety crossing at John Nolan Drive. So now the designers are working on revisions. There's talk of a bike underpass between North Shore and Broome Street to get to the lake. The master plan with adjustments will be shared with City Council this fall. And if you do plan on heading out for some biking, why not flit by Olbrich Gardens this week? Blooming butterflies are here! There are 19 different species of butterflies in the conservatory, and this Friday is Butterfly Action Day. During the day, the gardens will host representatives from monarch conservation groups, and anyone who bikes will get a milkweed seed packet. There's a small fee to go to the conservatory, and groups of more than 10 need to register. We'll toss a link in our show notes for more details. That's all for today, here on CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin. If you enjoyed this show, why not share this episode with a friend you'd like to bike around Lake Monona with? We'll be back tomorrow morning with more stories from around the city. Ciao.